เป็นคนบ้านครับเป็นสองแถวเชิญเลยครับเชิญเลยครับสองคนบ้านสองบ้านเรากิจการมาได้ครับเดินเข้ามาครับครั้งนี้นะครับต่ออีกนะครับ
And now I would like to introduce our guest speaker for today. Mr. Neil Kirkpatrick, an expert determinant, arbitrator, adjudicator, and mediator. He is skillful in dispute resolution methods, specifically in expert determination, dispute law, and arbitration. Mr. Kirkpatrick has served as a Managing Director of Construction Expert Services in Sydney, Australia. Let's give a round of applause to welcome Mr. Neil Kirkpatrick. And three more experts joining the discussion on the stage. ท่านแรกนะคะศาสตราจารย์ดร.ณรงค์ ผลบุญนาคผู้อำนวยการสำนักแก้ปัญหางานก่อสร้างค่ะท่านที่สองอาจารย์ชำนาญ วิเชษฐ์พันธ์ที่ปรึกษาชมรมนักกฎหมายก่อสร้างค่ะและท่านที่สามสุภาพสตรีคนเดียวบนเวทีนะคะดร.อภิรักษ์ ประทีป วิสารนนท์กรรมการผู้จัดการบริษัทตั้ง PPT Consulting จำกัดค่ะ In addition, we have several other experts joining us today to exchange their thoughts and opinions. This includes คุณกำพล กิติพงษ์พัฒนา ประธานชมรมนักกฎหมายก่อสร้างคุณนิวัฒน์ ธัญปิตินันท์ อุปนายกต่างประเทศสมาคมวิศวกรที่ปรึกษาประเทศไทยและกรรมการผู้จัดการบริษัท Properties จำกัดคุณโชคชัย เนตรงามสว่าง ผู้ก่อตั้งชมรมนักกฎหมายก่อสร้างคุณอุกฤษ สอนพงษ์จากสถาบันอนุญาโตตุลาการค่ะ และผู้ช่วยศาสตราจารย์ดร.ไพจิตร ถาวรรองคณบดีคณะวิศวกรรมศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยศรีปทุมร่วมด้วยผู้ช่วยศาสตราจารย์ดร.ชิสุอัมพรายผู้ช่วยคณะบดีฝ่ายกิจการนักศึกษาค่ะ
อันนี้ผมเอาเข้าเครื่องมือแล้วเป็นไมค์ใช่ไลน์อิน
Okay, maybe most of our time, I would like to hand over the stage to our speakers now, please.
ใช่วันนี้เสียงมาครับ
So, thank you very much, everybody, for attending. I'll talk to you today about
อันนี้คืออะไร
the process of expert
อันนี้คืออะไร
determination,
เขา
but also really
ไลน์อินก็เส้นนี้ถูกแล้ว
draw in the wider alternative dispute resolution processes as well. So, just on in relation to expert determination, I've prepared a number of topics, I think, to work through this morning. But I think the structure really of today, and more discussion oriented, and then
ให้เลือกเสียงจากผมอ่ะ ให้เลือกเสียงจากผม ยังไม่ว่างจะโทรกลับตอนนี้เอาเรื่องนี่ใช่ไหมครับใช่
Have any questions on the way, just quickly to ask and discuss and expand.
เนี่ยเรียบร้อยเนาะ
Just in relation to the sort of topics
ไม่ได้
we touched on, we'll have a brief
ยังไม่ได้อยู่
the expert determination process, a little bit on contract law, maybe
อันนี้มันเป็นเสียงของอะไรครับของลำโพง อ๋อมันไม่มีเป็นมีอินเทอร์เฟซไหม USB อ่ะใช่นี่อย่างไม่ที่เป็นนี่อยากเป็นไมค์
particularly important because that's part of building confidence in a process and any alternative dispute resolution process.
สายนี่ถึงนู่นป่ะเอาเนี่ยสายนี่ถึงนู่นป่ะ
ไม่น่าจะถึงใช่อย่างนั้นถูกไหม Either parties fair, that's naturally just procedurally fair. Then we will move into the expert determination process itself. We'll have a number of topics on that, including the use of evidence out of the process itself, submission,
มันไม่มีบูธเดี๋ยวนี้
cause,
อันนี้แค่อันนี้ไม่เสียง
how to communicate with the party.
มันต้องเซตให้เป็น
mediation, the differences in arbitration and expert determination.
อันนี้มันใช้ทีมไงสายไม่ถึงนู่นใช่ไหมสายไม่งั้นก็คนนี้ก็ได้คนที่ถึงป่ะคนนี้มันเป็นไลน์เฮาส์ไงมีไลน์
As the court draws on the skills of the expert determiner, but also softer skills,
อันนี้ออก
like mediation, contract management, understanding of the process. So are there any questions to start with? We haven't quite started yet, but then move into the introduction.
May I put first question to get the same understanding? What I understand, correct or not, please take it not correct me. In construction, there will be a lot of dispute problems. And normally,
ตัวนี้ออกเราตัวนี้ออก
they settle dispute by court or litigation. Now, if they go to court,
อันนี้ออกแล้วนะ
they period for settlement of dispute take long time before court decision.
ตัวนี้เสียง
Get final court offers instead of you and Supreme Court. That's why, but if the case take long time, the party suffer a lot. Subcontractor might borrow a lot of money and cannot get money and or pay a lot of interest. That's why in construction industry, they tend to go for
อยู่ในตู้
alternative dispute resolution, which is faster and then they suffer less the construction business has developed a lot of method of settlement of dispute alternative means. First method was arbitration. We use from the very beginning. This is faster. Then they developed many other methods like mediation, like dispute board, like negotiation, whatever. And then one of the important method is expert determination, which we are talking about today. Do I understand correctly? So this is my first question.
An expert determination, that leads very well into the sort of introduction to expert determination. And really what expert determination is an independent process, a dispute resolution process, where an independent expert decides a dispute between parties, and that's under rules and procedures agreed with the parties. Okay? And then determined by the expert. So it's a contractual procedure.
ไลฟ์ไปที่ SPU.ac.th SPU 01 เมลใช่ไหมใช่
Sorry, it's not grounded in statute like arbitration, but it has rules and a process. And the next would be akin to an arbitrator in that they make a decision based on submissions from the parties under a process that everybody agrees in is a contractual process. The benefit of expert determination is that it can be moved to a particular dispute, and it can be quick and efficient. And with experienced expert determiners, you can really formulate a very robust process, and the parties can receive a very good determination and resolve their disputes and move on with the commercial function of the project of the company. And that's one of the great benefits of expert determination. It's widely used. Now, it's widely used where arbitration isn't. It's also been in contraction where arbitrations used to be popular because of its flexibility. You can have representation, various types of representation to make submissions. Maybe you can want legal representation or just want to put a submission in to resolve a dispute with an independent person. Often parties don't want to have disputes in the contract, and it can be beneficial to have an independent determiner to resolve those sorts of things. So it can be used for all sorts of things. It is a creature of contract, so it's a contractual process, not a statutory process, and parties have to agree that the contract itself, without that, then the expert determination can't proceed. So we'll maybe move into the first topic and answer your question. So really, I thought we'd start this morning with a very brief discussion on contract law.
ได้ไหมเอกมันพูดครับอาจารย์
It's just really an understanding of why we need to understand the law and really the process of expert determination. Determination itself is based entirely on
เสียงมันเหมือนพูดอะพี่
really, the expert determiner needs to understand the basis of contract law in respect of both process that they undertake to resolve the dispute, but also their determinations almost entirely related to contractual disputes. Dispute contract, and whether that's in relation to a dispute resolution clause that refers to expert determination, that topic, so that would be related to the issues there to consider. So really, often a lot of disputes come down to whether something was or was not included in a contract, and it's important that the expert determiner understands the basis of contract and formations of contract, acceptance of offers and things like that, and scopes of work. So often you have a very technical dispute, wherein say in arbitration you might have being considered to be independent expert witnesses, one for the claimant and one for the respondent. And what you can have in an expert determination is that the expert determiner themselves are expert, and in effect, technically, technical expertise. And this is the benefit, one of the benefits of expert determination, where you can employ an independent expert to consider the technical disputes under a contract. So whether that's defective work, or delay, or a claim for additional costs through quantification, or maybe a schedule of rates description is incorrect, or there's a contention from the contractor that a bit of quantity set certain items in it. All of these sorts of disputes then are very well geared towards expert determination, because you can employ an expert who has that background. Whereas in an arbitration, say you have a decision maker, very knowledgeable decision maker, but they're weighing in evidence from experts and from submissions, and there's a different sort of approach. You still have to weigh evidence in expert determination and consider things in the balance of probability, but you're also entitled to draw on your own experience. So my background is as a chartered quantities surveyor and quantum construction management, and I can draw on that experience as an expert determiner in quantifying claims for loss and expense. So that's the sort of thing that expert determination is quite well geared towards. Now, in relation to submissions and evidence,
before we go to the next topic, may I answer more questions related to the previous one? Yes, in the contract, your topic that you mentioned, you told us about the contractual dispute that suitable for the expert determination, because the construction dispute normally related to we call it a big Bible, which is a contract, right? And you also mentioned about the technical dispute, which going to be technical expert, the different type of expert, either structure steel expert or delay expert or can be any kind of expert or soil expert, something like that. I have a question about how are we going to select the expert. Maybe I jump to the next question, but just to clarify that this construction dispute normally related to the contract, is not related to the law, purely to the law in any country, but the determinator or the decision maker rely on the contract or the drawing or the BOQ, which is a part of the contract, correct? That's why the expert determination is suitable for any construction dispute. But however, the expert that is going to be on any case have to be particularly on that specific issue only, like either technical expert or schedule expert, something like that.
Well, again, you've got flexibility with that sort of a consideration. Expert determination is well suited to appointing an expert with a particular expertise. But you may have an expert who is, they're high primary expertise would be, say, quantity surveying, but then also has a good grasp of the land. And there's nothing that could stop the process having, an expert that covers a range of issues. I mean, that's something the parties themselves could say that we don't want to have 2 or 3 experts. What we want is to really know a number of issues and resolve all of them together. And you may have an expert who is, say, very proficient in 1 or 2 of the issues, but maybe not the third, and you can draw an expert witness opinion to help with that. And in addition, you might have a technical expert who has to grapple with a difficult question of law, and you may, in that process, want an opinion on a particular clause or statute and how it should be interpreted in the contract. So it's very flexible in that approach. From time to time, experts are appointed. They're not necessarily expert in a particular field. They may be very good decision makers and highly experienced determiners. So it's a very flexible process. A number of disputes now, submissions are being made with expert witness opinion and expert determinations. And you think, well, does that maybe defeat the purpose of the process? But often an expert witness opinion helps a party convey their dispute or their position in the dispute better than perhaps they could draft an opinion. So often an expert witness opinion gives a good idea and an organized way of the dispute submissions of one of the parties.
นี่มันเขียนว่าเป็นรูมันหรือเปล่ามันต้องเขียนว่าเป็นรูมัน
You can even start a dispute with one issue and then join other issues. It all depends on the agreement of the parties.
Okay, thank you so much. And you also mentioned about the expert witness opinion. Are they different from the expert determination? Because mostly I involve in cases that have a lot of my cases will have expert witness opinion. Now, can you, it's 2 different things. Expert determination process still can use the expert witness for a particular issue as well. It's 2 different methods.
Well, an expert witness gives an opinion in an independent way. So they may be appointed by a party, or they may be appointed by a tribunal as a joint expert. So you have a single party appointed expert, or a joint expert appointed by a tribunal, or appointed by both parties to a dispute. It just depends on really the arrangements and the form of the dispute. But an expert witness opinion is it's not binding, it's not a binding decision. But it's similar to an expert determination in that an expert determiner can arrive and use their expertise. And it's a similar sort of process that they're looking at maybe technical disputes with legal aspects to it. The expert witness is appointed to give an independent opinion. Whilst that's non-binding, an expert determiner is appointed by the parties to give an independent decision. Now that decision can be binding or not binding. So you may, often parties, you say, what's the reason for having a non-binding decision? What's the purpose of going through a dispute resolution process and having a decision that neither of the parties has to follow? Well, you may have a decision that's non-binding that maybe you have to follow on an interim basis, subject to a final decision effectively, or you may have a non-binding decision that often helps the parties crystallize their position, and maybe one of the parties on the losing side, say, really just realizes that their case is hopeless, and and a non-binding decision really crystallizes the dispute in a certain way that you get some sort of a resolution, but maybe it's slightly incorrect. And you can have a binding decision, of course, where the decision is simply binding and the parties agree that they must do as the decision requests. And if the party doesn't do that, then they can take the decision in court and have that decision enforced as a contractual agreement effectively. And as long as the process has been followed and it's been procedurally fair, and the decision is a good one, reasonable, and not erroneous sort of a decision with obvious errors in it, then a court, I would presume, would uphold that decision, and that would be the start really of the case law effectively, I think, in respect of expert determination, which would support that process. And that would be an enormous benefit to industry. And I think one of the issues in industry is it can be slow to take up new processes, or processes that maybe haven't been used much in the past. And there's really an interrelationship between industry and practitioners. So the practitioners themselves need to form groups and institutions and find ways to draft rules and procedures. And you talk, part of your question was also in relation to how do you nominate. You mentioned, well, where does the expert come from? So there's a number of sources. You may have an expert who has been written into the contract. So parties may agree a particularly well qualified expert would be a good person to simply refer disputes to under an expert determination process. Or you may have an expert determination referenced in a dispute resolution clause that requires the nomination from an institution. So an institution then has an obligation to provide well-trained, qualified, and highly proficient experts. And when there's a pool of very good expert determiners and dispute resolvers, confidence grows in industry. And there's absolutely no doubt that industry will take this up because they will see the merits of an efficient, just, really fast process where you get good determinations at a relatively efficient cost. And the cost of the process is often really at the liberty of the parties. So the parties themselves can also consider the sort of process they want to balance cost against actually putting their submissions in a form that they would like. And from that, you really get success that goes out of these things.
I also have some question because expert determination is neutral and flexible also. And so what is the suitable case that cover for the expert? This is the first question. The second is how long to determine in one case? This is a question. Thank you.
Well, expert determination is really suitable for most contractual disputes. So if you look at construction or engineering, say you have issues in delay, quality of work, quantity of work, interpretation of contract, clauses, performance from the employer's perspective and the contractor's perspective. Often there are claims raised in respect of performance and line obligations, of reasonableness in contracts, and all of these things can be taken into expert determination for a decision. And really it's how the expert determination is then framed the expert determiner needs to be proficient at asking the questions that need to be answered. So part of the process is the parties will submit a notice of dispute, say, to trigger an expert determination process. And when an expert determinator is then nominated and appointed through whatever the process that is, whether it's an institution or a private appointment between the parties, the expert determiner then considers the dispute, the notice of dispute, and really can work with the parties to formulate questions that need to be answered. What are the issues in dispute? And they need to be framed in a way that is clear and that the dispute that the parties are looking to resolve will be answered correctly. In relation to timing, I mean, again, that's flexible. An expert determiner can consider the size of the case and the parties need time to make their submissions. So there may be well-established submissions through claims that have been really lingering for a while in the contract, or there may be relatively new claims, and parties need some time to prepare submissions. So you could look at the sort of timing that parties might want to feel comfortable with, but also then you look at the determination and the amount of time that you need. But I mean, you can, on relatively large cases, you could be looking at months. There may be very large cases that might take upwards of maybe a year or just under a year. But I've been appointed on expert determinations with hundreds and hundreds of defective work claims. And we've had processes where we've really brought in multiple decisions. So instead of having a monetary resolution, instead of having a determination in relation to the cost of defective work or the cost of the damages of line or whatever, we've had a remedy where contractors had to rectify work in a certain way. And we've had a number of interim decisions to allow, in the event the determination find defective work, that we've had processes that have allowed the contractor to return and rectify work, and then a subsequent decisions that then consider whether the rectification was actually contractually correct. So, but all of those sorts of processes have time, but you could be looking at maybe 4 weeks for a decision, and maybe a $500,000 or $1 million dispute on quantum of delay. You might be 2 to 3 months, start to finish, maybe a bit longer, but very quick. Whereas an arbitration might be long for the up to a year or not, So, but it really depends. I mean, if the parties come to an expert determiner and say, look, we really need to resolve this dispute quickly, and the expert determiner has to look at the particular set of circumstances and come to a decision as to timing with the parties. It's a consensual sort of a process in that respect, in that there can be really collaboration with the parties to form the agreement of the timetable and the process. And then it's done to the parties also then to follow that process. And often parties will try to change the process when they think they want a process finished quickly and then realize they need more time. And that's where an expert determiner has to be robust in managing the process as well.
Excuse me, sir. There's a question from
Yes.
here.
Please, the audience first. Yes.
Okay, good morning. We respect to the committee and Mr. Neil. First of all, my name is Sripatum from the Law Division, the Staff Judge Advocate General. the Royal Thai Navy. So on behalf of the law department, we concerned about the expert determination, about the three questions. So according to the theory of the expert determination, of course, the expert determination can be like a point of the one issue, right? Or the one issue when dispute is happened. But on behalf of the Royal Thai Navy, we concerned in the third question. So the first one, if the dispute may not be suitable by all the parties, of course, the agreement cannot agree with each other, right? So how the expert will be appointed if the party cannot agree on the identify of the expert, and which parties will have a responsibility to pay for the expert's cost. This is the first one.
So expert determination is contractual in nature. So where you have an arbitration grounded in the statute and laws, the Thailand Arbitration Act, that sets out the process. If one party doesn't take part in that process, the process continues effectively because of the statute. But in an expert determination, unless both parties sign what is a tripartite agreement, that's a contractual agreement with the expert determiner and both parties. And the expert determiner has a really overriding ability to issue decisions or issue procedural directions so that they can, if the parties don't agree on a particular point, the expert determiner can make a decision and say that you're going to make submissions in this framework. You can't come to an agreement, so I decide that this is a reasonable framework to do that. That authority only comes when a contract is signed. And unless the parties sign the contract, the expert determiner has no authority at all. Now, there's two issues really to consider. If you have an expert determination referenced in a dispute resolution clause, and one of the parties refuses to sign an expert determination agreement, the other party can then, I would presume, take the dispute in respect of that process to court, and the courts should uphold the dispute resolution clause in the contract and require the non-signing party to sign. Now, from an expert determiner's point of view, that's not ideal because you may have accepted an appointment and one of the parties doesn't sign your contract, effectively the tripartite contract, the agreement between the two parties and the expert determiner. And you may be subject to quite a long wait while a court decides. So part of the success in alternative dispute resolution is also having support from the court. That they will support these processes and arrive at reasonably quick decisions. The issue that you've got is that if there is a dispute resolution clause in the contract, it would really be disingenuous for one of the parties not to subsequently sign an expert determination contract. In a contract, you may refer to expert determination in a dispute resolution clause. Often dispute resolution clauses have a number of steps: expert negotiation, mediation, and then maybe you go to expert determination. And on occasion, expert determination is used in a binding and non-binding way. So you may have binding decisions up to a certain value of dispute, and then a non-binding decision on disputes that are much larger. And that threshold tends to be where parties to a contract have decided that perhaps disputes of a certain size are more manageable under an arbitration set. So unless the contract is signed, the expert determiner can't really proceed. But the parties, if they have agreed to a dispute resolution clause which references expert determination in the contract, are compelled to sign on. The contract will most likely say that the parties must appoint an expert determiner, and then that process itself may be set out in the contract. And it's often advisable to have certainly the start of a process of expert determination and maybe a set of expert determination rules in your contract in one of the annexures, so that the parties are comfortable when you go to a dispute, you're not in an unknown situation where you have maybe a process that you're not necessarily comfortable with. So these are all proprietary steps that parties can make to really make that dispute resolution process a success, because disputes and differences happen. And often disputes and differences are through no fault of either party, but disputes polarize parties to a contract, and sophisticated parties tend to take disputes out of the projects and have them resolved elsewhere. And there's still a tradition of disputes being held by the projects. And if you can escalate disputes quickly out of projects into forums that they can be resolved, and allow the projects just to get on with finishing and achieving completion on time, there's enormous benefits to that for our project. And that's one of the benefits of having alternative dispute resolution processes that are fast and efficient. Because there's nothing worse than a construction project bogged down with dispute, and project leaders and project managers spending 60% of their time working on submissions for a process that goes on for years. So it all leads into success on projects as well. And I mean, on other forums and other processes, this is where dispute boards can be a great success, because they are proactively involved to resolve disputes before they become disputes effectively. So they're at the difference of opinion stage, and the proactive dispute board member ultimately may have to issue a determination or a recommendation that may be non-binding, maybe an interim recommendation, but these processes help resolve disputes, and the dispute board is a way of doing that, certainly on a proactive basis, and they draw on skills from mediation and expert determination as well. They have to be determined. So really, that was a long-winded way of answering your question. The expert really only has authority when the parties sign a contract.
Okay, but my question is about like when the parties cannot agree, but like the program is happening, like cannot agree to appoint the identifying of the expert determination. I mean, like which party take the responsibility to pay the cost of the. I mean, you mean you answer me like the party who take the responsibility more is the party who provide, who construct the project, right?
Well, that maybe again that's something that can be agreed between the parties. So traditionally, costs are paid by each party, and there is no in an expert determination. We can have an apportionment of costs, but traditionally costs are paid by each party. And that's not an unreasonable position. Entering into a contract, both parties start a contract hoping that it will be a success and hoping that disputes are avoided. So parties tend to not want to be litigious, and in having a simple agreement that says you pay your own costs, really it makes parties also consider what the efficiency of the process, because it's very easy to say, well, we're going to win this dispute as a party, and we're going to get all of our costs. Well, it's very easy to say that, but often that's not how a process is resolved. So costs under that process are written into an agreement as that each party pays their own. Now, in respect of the expert determiners' fees and the fees and expenses, they are either shared between the parties at equal cost, or the agreement might say that the expert determiner may apportion costs as part of their determination. More often, parties just pay equal shares. That really signifies how the dispute resolution process itself is being considered. So it's a process of balance, of saying neither party wants to dispute, but if we do, we're going to take the burden and resolve this in a way that is equitable. That doesn't always work out. Sometimes you do get claims that are maybe not particularly well justified, and that's the issue. And in respect of nomination, either the party itself has the contract itself might be an expert, or you have an institution, a nominating authority that would appoint an expert on behalf of the parties. But one party doesn't have any authority to appoint an expert over another, and that's a consensual process. You may have parties may decide we would like to appoint or agree an expert, and you may come up with a list of 3 or 4 names and negotiate between the parties as to who you might prefer as an expert, and then the parties may approach that expert and ask them to consider a nomination.
Okay. Very interesting question. After listening to Mr. Neil, I'd like to sum up a little bit for my own understanding also. But please continue with your question.
Okay, thank you.
My understanding was, the question was if the two parties
Yes.
could not agree on the appointment of the expert,
Yeah, of the
intermediator, then what to do and who pay the cost?
Yes. Like at the end of the day, like
Yes. Then the answer, as I understand, maybe I do not understand correctly. Mr. Neil said the appointment of expert determiner has to come from the agreement by both parties. They agree that the dispute would be settled by expert determination. Both parties would appoint the expert determiner, maybe 3 persons or maybe 1 person, whatever they want to agree. Say they agree for 1 expert determiner. Then the agreement say that, suppose the agreement say that both parties must agree on the determiner, expert determiner, but they fail to agree. Then what to do? Normally, if the agreement doesn't say what to do, then one of the parties has to go to court, ask the court for appointment, and that process take long time. This is my experience as to the case of arbitration. Then this is not the case of expert determiner, but that was the case of arbitration. Whether or not I understand correctly, on the case of expert determiner, if the contract say nothing on the appointment of the determiner what to do, then you have to go the same process as arbitration. You go to court. Then the court takes very long time. Later on, under the contract, normally instead of going to court, the contract would say if the party could not agree on the appointment, they nominate nomination authority or appointing authority, whatever, like under FIDIC contract, they said you go to president of FIDIC, and president of FIDIC could apply for you. That is an alternative means. Instead of going to court, you go to quicker process by going to the president of FIDIC. But not necessarily that you would have to say president of FIDIC. You may have the dean of the faculty of engineering of Sripatum can also, it depends on the party. You ask, you name Mr. Neil as the appointing person, can be done also, or any other senior position, anything that the party, that would be alternative means of getting appointment. Is that correct? Then, as to the expense, like Mr. Lee said, normally because of the expert independent wheelchair between both parties, but the party failed to appoint, this might be another cost. When you go to president of FIDIC, you may have to pay $10,000 US for appointment or whatever, and then those other appointing authority might charge you a little bit of expense depending on them. Then who pay this expense? I think the appointing authority would also decide that whoever failed to pay and cause this procedure to arrive and expect, maybe he also say that who would pay his expense. If not, then normally under the law, as I understand correctly, who failed to perform his proper function and cause damage to the other party, that person has to compensate for the damage. I don't know where, so you have to confirm with that.
That's correct. And that, remember, an expert determination comes out of a contractual agreement. So what the dispute resolution clause of the contract says is important. The expert may be nominated by a particular body or institution, and there would be a clause usually in a nomination. It's a nominal clause. And if the party really pushing for the expert determination to occur often triggers the dispute resolution clause, the notice of dispute, and then they go through the procedure, and they might approach an institution to make a nomination, and they might simply pay the fee. Now, the contract itself might say that the parties are to share any fees in joint share. And in that case, if one of the parties hasn't paid, submissions can be made to the expert determiner, and the expert determiner can make a decision on fees and costs in their determination. So the process itself might say the expert determiner must apportion costs in relation to the cost of the parties, and they take submissions, and that is the cost incurred. I mean, it's all part of really, it's a process that is agreed, that's the point. It's very flexible, and the parties might say that it's better just to have these in equal share and not go through the whole procedure of having to make submissions and costs and have them considered, reviewed, and just get things finished relatively quickly.
Second question.
Okay, so the second question to continue on the first question. So yeah, I understand even the president of the FIDIC awards about a point to the cost of the party who take the responsibility to pay the expert cost, or even an engineer at the Sripatum University. But the question is of course the successful party should be entitled to recover its cost from the unsuccessful party, right? Because normally it is happening. But if so, the question is, what is the basis of the extent of cost recoverable?
Well, again, your question assumes that the contract, the process of dispute resolution clause states that the losing party effectively is to pay the costs. So that is an assumption that needs to be written in the expert determination process itself, or again, arising out of the dispute resolution clause in the contract. But if it does say that the expert determiner is to apportion costs, those costs would be submitted. See, often the dispute legal costs can be very high. And if you think about mediations can often be settled until the matter of legal costs is discussed, and the parties look in surprise at the sort of fees that they're money encounter for the dispute up to the point of having mediation. And then what happens is that the parties maybe say, we'll take our chances in court and hope that we win, and then we'll get our costs. So sometimes costs can be quite high in the process. And it really comes down to having regard to a sort of process that is established in the contract, because you want an efficient process. And part of having an efficient process, you might say, is having parties pay their own costs. Because that then, there's a benefit, there's a commercial benefit in not expending too much. And it's not, occasionally you do get very large submissions on disputes that really don't justify them. And they're in themselves, then you have costs associated with submissions that are really unreasonable. And an expert determiner might then look at those sorts of costs and say, you might have one part of your dispute, but you certainly not entitled to costs in relation to submissions that are completely irrelevant. So, I mean, it's not a simple process.
I find also interesting question. I have some experience, not particularly on expert determination matter. One experience is about the arbitration matter. The party have contracted the contract to say that the cost of arbitration, the party will share equally. Say there is a clause of expert determination saying that the cost of expert determination and all the process, the party will share equally. Then they got a problem. They submit the claim to expert for determination, and the party claiming the cost and expense request also that the expert should decide the other party pay all the cost. But the contract says half. The application asks for full payment by the other party. They explain all sort of things that the other party failed to do. So many things, and the expert found that is correct. The other party failed everything. He should pay all the costs. The problem is the agreement says half. What to do with it?
Yeah, because there's a conflict of a conflict of, for example, like arbitration act in Thailand. So we want to know about the solution, what to do, right? Yeah.
Well, and there is an interesting difference between expert determination and arbitration. You have a process where you have an arbitration act that provides a process that really says this is what you do in a certain set of circumstances. But in an expert determination, you can really mold the process in respect of the contract that you prepare for the dispute, the process itself. So in a contract, it might say that the parties are to share costs an equal share, but subsequently, maybe the parties decide we're happy, we would like to have the expert determiner consider a range of costs that should be apportioned as part of the dispute, and that would be a subsequent decision. But I don't see the parties. I mean, the parties are at liberty to make decisions. They're not bound by the contract forever. So that's something that I presume you could throw in on an expert determination process, but by the agreement of the parties. The expert determiner does not have the authority to just make decisions like that. And they must get an agreement by the parties, or at least offer the opportunity for the parties to make submissions such that the expert determiner can make a decision. Now that's grounded in natural justice and procedural fairness. And that's a highly important area for the expert determiner to understand. They must be procedurally fair. So really, to relate that to your question and your consideration, if you afford the parties procedural fairness in a change that they are looking for as well, then I think that would be a decision that would be upheld. And I don't see any reason why the parties couldn't subsequently make an amendment to do something like that. And that shows the flexibility of the process as well.
So which means that we don't need to following about it on the contract, right? Because maybe like sometimes the contract is unfair agreement.
Well, then you shouldn't have signed it. The contract is the bargain between the parties, so if you don't sign a contract you don't like, I suppose is the essence of it. Now often you have a contract that, I mean, from a contractor's point of view, say, for example, maybe there are terms in a contract you don't necessarily like, but they make a commercial decision that the risk involved with those particular clauses they don't like is acceptable. And that's the difference. So there isn't really a clause, a clause in a contract that a party really doesn't want, then they try to amend the contract before it's executed. But there are many clauses in a contract that really just have a risk associated to them, and that's the difference there. But I mean, once the contract's signed, that's really what you're obliged to follow. But in an expert determination process, that is an evolving process that you have the foundation start, perhaps in the contract from the notice of dispute and the dispute resolution clause. The contract may have a procedure in it that employer and contractor have negotiated and come up with a fair procedure of what they perceive as fair at the time. But there's no reason that process can't be amended with agreement of the parties in conjunction with the expert determiner.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
May I add on this point a little bit? Whether or not we should follow the term of the contract. Normally, when we execute a contract, we have to follow all terms and conditions under the contract. But some of the provisions under the contract, maybe they open for the party to follow or not to follow. Now, in relation to our discussion today, say, under free deal contract, impose, when you look at the provision of free deal contract, that they quite strict for appointment of that. This new adjudication board or this new avoidance and adjudication board look like we must follow definitely. But then when we look at the other clause, is something like that not in place where the party does not employ that. You see, one condition say that you must employ, but then they have a provision to say that if the party did not employ, what to do? That clause say that if the party did not employ that, they can go directly to arbitration. It's something like the meaning said, you must employ, but if you did not employ, then we have other means for you to follow. So something like this clause, even though you did not comply, so you can. That's not comply. But when you read it, you have to follow strictly. But then it's the party, your choice that you don't follow also. Right? I don't know whether expert determination can have similar condition.
May I share two of projects that I have involved in the dispute adjudication board that have in the contract. And one of the very big project in Scotland, they have this dispute adjudication board in the contract, and both parties have a dispute board from the beginning to the end, which is very good for the owner because they save a lot of money and there's no dispute at the end of the project. And the other project in Thailand, they have that in the contract. But both parties ignore, don't appoint the dispute board until the end of the project. It's like both parties agree or nobody refuse or reject or say anything. So both of them did not appoint the dispute board. But at the end of the project, when they have a dispute, they appoint because it can be ad hoc. But the formal dispute board in the physics said you have to apply on month one, right? The first month of the project, we have to apply the dispute board. But on this project, they did not apply on the first month. So what happened was they apply at the end of the project as well because it can be ad hoc there as well. It's from my experience.
So what is the end of the dispute? I mean, like what is the end of the dispute that you experience? Like which jurisdiction for the end of the project you appoint?
You mean the first one that was successful dispute adjudication board? I don't know which dispute board they appoint, but they appoint 3 persons come regularly every 6 months, during 8 years.
Okay.
And I got involved at the end of the project.
Okay.
But I think it's very successful. It's good for the owner because the dispute can be solved very quickly. And then you need attention and good relationship with the contractor. And surely the owner put the money, so they want the project done very quickly. So the dispute in the construction is like a fire. When we found quickly, then we put the water in. It's not having a big fire. So that's why he said that the fast alternative dispute resolution is the best one, which is
For a speedy, right? For a speedy and binding solution.
yeah, also a good relationship with the contractor as well. And also, of course, every owner, if they know that they have to pay or it's their fault, they will have to pay. But it's mostly it's misunderstanding. I don't know who fault. If we have a third party, we very often on the big project have a lot of claim and a lot of dispute. If we can resolve it this way, then every party, every contractor will feel very comfortable that they have a way to settle the dispute in a quick way as well.
That's one of the benefits of dispute boards. And they're different, they draw on experience and skills from a number of dispute resolution processes. But a dispute board is intended to be involved in the project from commencement. And one of the benefits of having independent board members is that the parties take issues each month to meetings and they discuss the problems and their issues without prejudice basis. So in effect, whatever your ability to say anything or discuss things in meetings and they can't be used sort of in evidence as it were in submissions. And that's a proactive part of dispute resolution boards. And they're very successful in resolving disputes. And where an issue, where one of the parties to a dispute in a contract subject to dispute boards has a claim or an issue that they want to resolve, a dispute resolution board has the benefit of being involved in the project and understanding the issues. And the dispute resolution board is tasked with updating themselves with the contemporaneous information and progress on a project, having the mind of the issues that arisen from submissions of the parties. The parties might report to the board each month and hold meetings each month. And the board then can be drawn on, their experience can be drawn on to issue determinations or recommendations. So maybe there's a dispute on a delay, and there's a dispute over whether there's an entitlement to an extension of time and delay costs. And the contractor says, I'm entitled to time and costs, and the employer said, sorry, there were concurrent delays that were your fault. And under our contract, where a concurrent delay arises, it negates time a critical delay. If there's a critical delay, it was the fault of the contractor. The sorts of issues that a dispute board can contemporaneously resolve through their recommendations. And the recommendations are often non-binding, or not final, but the agreement says that their recommendation is taken up until such time as a final decision. And it really just removes the issue and then you move on. And if the party that lost that particular issue was not happy with that decision, they can take that issue then to a different forum, expert determination or arbitration in due course.
Again, I have no question. Thank you for your answer. It's totally clear. Thank you.
Do you have another question? Then the audience.
มีคำถามครับ
Okay. I have one more question. We have been discussing when the agreement provide for resolution by expert determination, and then other means also like dispute board, like arbitration. Should this clause on expert determination be a condition precedent before the dispute can go forward to dispute board or arbitration? Otherwise, you may have so many methods of dispute resolution and expert determination at the end. Should it be provided as a condition precedent? I saw also some contract provide for mediation, like AIA contract. They said that mediation is a condition precedent to other means of resolution. So this one be condition precedent also.
I think in respect of dispute boards, no, well, an expert determination is in effect part of that process. And then, yeah, I mean, the idea of the dispute board is to have dispute board members involved who can assist the parties resolve their disputes maybe before they occur. So you might have an engineering project and you have a highly capable engineer as part of that dispute board who the parties encounter a particular issue, a ground condition. In the meetings of the dispute board, they discuss this difficult issue of ground conditions. And the member of the dispute board with a lot of experience said, well, I understand this issue with several problems in the past, and this is how I always, this is the sort of result of this particular issue. So there could be sort of prejudice discussions that way. And the idea of that is then to try and resolve the disputes contemporaneously. But if the disputes won't go away and they're too contentious, then the dispute board is tasked with issuing a determination effectively, maybe a non-binding expert determination, a similar determination that an expert determiner might issue, and delay analysis, so claims for extensions of time arise frequently in the dispute board. Dispute board members with great experience in extensions of time and delay analysis are highly sought after. So that's the sort of issue. But you could have a condition precedent in a dispute resolution clause where you have to go to expert determination before litigation. That might be something that the parties think is a good way to try to resolve disputes efficiently. Because I think one of the misconceptions is that when you say an arbitration or an expert determination, well, the parties pay for all the costs of that process. Well, if you go to litigation, you don't pay the costs of the court and the decision made of the judge, I suppose. But you have very high legal costs around that process and a burdensome process, often a very lengthy process. So there's a balance in that. But you could have a condition precedent in respect of litigation. You can have an expert determination and then an arbitration. You might have a non-binding expert determination even and then arbitration. There's great benefit, I think, in compelling the parties to conduct mediation before moving on to the determinative process as well. So you might have a dispute resolution clause that asks for the parties to negotiate through a number of steps, and then attend mediation, and then maybe expert determination. And if all of that fails, they can litigate. But I would assume they'll all be too tired to do that by that stage.
Under FIDIC contract, they go FIDIC Red Book 1999. They provide for settlement, dispute settlement by that DAB, that is a short form dispute adjudication board. So in 1999, this dispute board has the function of adjudicate the dispute. They make decision. In FIDIC 2017 latest version, they change this clause into that, the double A, DAAB. So they add one A. That the new A stands for avoidance. So they have two functions: avoiding dispute and adjudicating the dispute. And they doesn't seem to mention the term of expert determination. But other contracts like Malaysian Standard Form and and some other countries, they specifically mention the name of expert determination. So see, maybe expert determination process is part of this new law, but in some contract, it's separate. Should it be separate? And which process? If separate, what sort of benefit? Because we are talking specifically today on expert determination, and some of the contract mention specifically since that they can be separate or they can be part. Is it good or is it better to separate? And if separate, what sort of benefit to use one or the other?
I think it's where it's a perception as well of the two processes. So you have dispute courts, and they're in effect there to prevent disputes in a way or to assist with the resolution of issues before they become established disputes. So I think if you have an expert determination process, maybe it's separate in a way that the dispute resolution board issues recommendations then. So they issue recommendations to the parties, like an adjudication. So they go through the various steps, try to negotiate with the dispute board and find a way to resolve, and there is the resolution. The dispute board can issue a recommendation, and that's a determination. It's in effect like an adjudication. It may be that the dispute board doesn't have the authority to issue a binding decision. And all of that process then lends itself to resolving disputes in a way that the parties empower themselves, almost like a mediation. So that's the big difference really in a mediation and an expert determination or arbitration. The minute that you push the button on an expert determination or an arbitration, an independent decision maker is empowered to make a decision on the process, whether that's contractual or statutory, it's still the same in respect of giving the authority to an independent person. The mediation is really the process that allows the parties to come to a decision themselves. Whether it's a good or bad decision, it's a decision that the parties have come to, and one that they can live with. So the dispute court, I suppose, has merits in that respect, that it really tries to get the parties, it's a process that helps the parties resolve the disputes without binding decisions up to a certain point. And then the expert determination may be, or the arbitration might be a binding determination as a final decision. So a party may be apprehensive to commence that process because it's the end of the dispute, and they might feel that they want to have a decision made on their behalf. So that, I think that's really a difference and why they might be separated that way.
If the audience have any question, please then, because I like the audience to put question first. If the audience now do not have question, I would like to have further question. Say, if I have a project and I'm about to enter a contract and I have to put condition in the contract that if there is any dispute, I have to settle this dispute by this dispute board. What sort of condition should I put in order to get the best benefit out of this dispute board?
Well, I mean, the dispute board can be constituted in a way that suits the project. So depending on the size of the project, you might want one dispute board member, or you might want three with a chair. And that makes it make decisions in majority areas. But really, again, it comes down to the contract itself, and what what the parties drafted in the contract wants, or what the project itself might actually need. So there might be a requirement to fulfill certain obligations from funders or from various organizations or government entities. And more and more governments are using dispute boards now as part of the package of resolving disputes, because they can see the merits in trying to resolve disputes contemporaneously, having very experienced people involved in projects, offering advice and a process to support the parties through difficult issues. So the dispute boards are really fantastic. The process is actually they're widely used and they're highly successful. I think in Australia, the dispute boards have a 100% success rate. On every project that they've ever been involved in, there hasn't, I think, I'm right in saying, there hasn't been a single dispute go to arbitration or a binding determination. And there's some very highly experienced practitioners around the world that get involved. So you can imagine on a project with complex engineering issues, you can see the merits in having a member of the dispute board as a very capable engineer, for example, or you might have very complex valuations and very complicated mechanisms for deriving claims for payment claims and things, and you can see the merits in having a highly experienced quality surveyor with that sort of experience where disputes in quantum and they can be taken to the dispute board and resolved contemporaneously, as opposed to putting. See, the expert determination or arbitration is determined in the process, so it is a process where a decision is made effectively on the basis of documents that have been submitted, and that is a process that obviously has to come after a dispute has been crystallized. So you've got, you tend to not have hearings and expert determinations. That's one of the differences. So expert determination is a slightly simpler process, but it can have other aspects to it. But that would be the benefit certainly in the dispute board, having a contemporaneous view and having it in a way that it wasn't a sort of final. It didn't lead to a binding decision, and they have merits in that. And that also comes down to what parties want in their contract.
Under free contract, any question from the audience, please? If not yet, I let people go ahead.
Now we move to from expert determination to dispute one. Okay, so suppose we use the fitting 2017 edition, and they specify to implement the dispute one, but the construction work very complicated thing. So sometimes we need the expert to give opinion or to give determination. The question is, can we put in the particular condition that any party can propose or can propose the expert opinion or expert determination to solve some issue? This is the question. Thank you.
That's under the dispute board. Well, the dispute board itself would have a process. So that process would be agreed under the contract. Really, it's just a case of following that process. So if a party has a particular issue and they want to resolve it through the dispute board, then they would trigger the process in whatever format that was in. And if the dispute board had the authority to issue a determination, then a party would work through that procedure of the dispute court resolution process and come out with a decision, and that decision might be binding until a finally binding decision is made. So you might have a contract that has decided they want the dispute court to be able to work with the parties contemporaneously through the project, and then if any issues do arise, they have the authority to issue an expert determination saying or a determination, or what might be called a recommendation. And that recommendation may be binding up to the point of the party triggering the separate dispute resolution clause in the contract. So you can have a dispute court process that runs really concurrently with a dispute resolution clause that might have a separate process in it, and that gives rise then to the final and binding decisions that would be made an expert determination or an arbitration.
Under the contract, as to dispute board, the number of dispute board members can either be 1 member or 3 member or more. Now, as to expert determination, how about the number of expert determination? Should it be 1, should it be 3, or should it be more, or depend on the size of the project or whatever? And what sort of expense internationally, if I have to use this billboard on international basis, what sort of expense it should be?
Well, I mean, that really comes down to the sort of project. A project may not be a scale to have a dispute board of 3 members, or it may be of a size that needs 3 members. The benefit of having a panel of dispute board members is that you can draw on different experience. So you might have an engineer, you might have an arbitrator, a lawyer, counsel, you might have a quantity surveyor. And within that mix, you've got a good range of experience and knowledge where issues are, where you have issues, then the board is really equipped to be able to resolve these things. We're bearing in mind the dispute board is a mechanism that under the contract that is really there to help the parties resolve issues. So there must be confidence in the board members. And the parties need to put their minds to the sort of dispute board experience, expertise that they would require. You tend to have a chair who's very knowledgeable and experienced, maybe from a legal background. And then you might have an engineer and a quantum of the technical tech people. It really depends on the project. And again, it depends, in respect of costs. We have very highly experienced practitioners who deal with international disputes. They will have their own fees that would be put to the parties. Now, those fees, again, have to be agreed, so the parties can say, well, we're okay, those fees we think they're too expensive. But that's all part of the agreement, and that there would be a set of dispute board terms. You have a process and a procedure to follow, and then things like nomination and appointments follow that procedure until you have the right constitution of the right members for the dispute board. And the dispute board process itself is subject to a set of rules that the parties agree to as well. So yeah, it's I mean, in relation to cost, that's difficult because it really depends on the sort of size of the project as well.
Can we estimate, like if I have say 1% of the project cost or 0.5% or 0.3%, just to calculate roughly that how much it would cost
if we employ these people?
Just off the top of my head, I don't have the figures, but there are figures out there from the International Chamber of Commerce and the Sripatum Foundation of guidance on some of these sorts of things. Chartered Institute of Arbitrators guidance on some of these sorts of things too. I mean, in terms of percentage, it's difficult because it really comes down to the size of the contract, doesn't it? When you have a highly complex contract that isn't delivering value, the percentage might be higher, so it probably wouldn't be very flexible with that. So we might be in that sort of range that you mentioned. And it really just depends. I mean, it very much depends on what the parties want the dispute boards to do. Occasionally, parties don't see the merits of the dispute board, and they might be compelled to have a dispute board as part of, say, a funding agreement. And really, that's a disappointing decision on the parties because there's so much benefit in having highly experienced practitioners involved in a project, coming in and having updates and even in themselves, they will make sure that they get the right sort of information that they want. And dispute resolution is a skill as well. It's a skill set that people learn and spend many years learning, having more experience in. And these dispute resolution board practitioners offer that sort of experience in conjunction with their highly experienced technical skills. And it's such a great benefit for projects to just be able to draw on that sort of experience. And in a way that there's no, it's without prejudice, as it were, so there's no risk in discussing issues. And their confidentiality agreements is very important. And just to circle back to the expert determination for a second in respect of confidentiality, one of the great benefits of arbitration, but also expert determination if it's written into the agreement, is that the dispute can remain confidential, whereas in litigation it's published. And quite often parties don't want disputes to be published to the public because they're just, the perception of the really is great that there's nothing, actually often there's no problem, there's no issue in having a dispute. Differences arise in interpretation and issues occur, and how to address those issues then can be very difficult from a project point of view. And often you make contemporaneous decisions on projects that at the time were the best decisions to make, but in retrospect, with additional knowledge and additional facts after events have occurred, one might say it might be better to do something in a particular way or different way. But the benefit of hindsight is something project managers have very little of, and they have to construct projects with the best knowledge and experience they have. And that is a good example of how disputes might arise from decisions made that really were the best decisions at the time, but things just sometimes don't quite work out the way they're planned. So those sorts of disputes, there's a benefit in not having disputes from, agencies and governments and very large organizations might want disputes, in particular with confidential information on projects put in the public. Alternative dispute resolution lends itself very well to those sorts of disputes because they can remain confidential with the agreement of the parties. And arbitration itself is confidential under arbitration acts. So the dispute boards have confidentiality agreements in them too, so the dispute board members are very responsible people who take their obligations very seriously. They have professional practices that are evolved to accommodate confidentiality agreements and ensure that any information is given against a confidential basis.
Now, we are talking about expert determination. We are talking about this report. We are mentioning some part of application. Simply, in some case, expert determination is separate from this report. In some case, they are part, expert determination is part of this report. Now, the procedure, I don't know whether the case of separation, the procedure of expert determination is less complicated, less expensive, or whatever, I don't know. Should it be should it be separate? The other thing I wonder, expert determination, in some part, they determine the issue and binding the party. This report, if separate, in some function, they also determine the issue and binding. Also, arbitration, they determine the issue and binding. We have three entities dealing with the issue and then binding. Should we dispense with some of them? Say, if I have to put a condition on this report, should I dispense with arbitration? Or if I have to have a condition of expert determination, they make decision of the issue already. We don't want this report, we don't want arbitration. And if I have to have a condition of this report, the similarity of this report and expert determination is there. I just term expert determination as this report and use procedure simpler for expert determination to apply in that we change from expert into this report. Can that be done?
Well, there's a few differences I think are worth raising. Dispute boards and expert determination in themselves are contractual processes. Now, when we talk about binding decisions, a binding decision under either process is a contractual obligation to pay. So the losing party, the party that has been requested to pay damages costs, has a contractual obligation. So if the party then doesn't pay, that's a breach of contract. Whereas in arbitration, the decision comes out of the Arbitration Act effectively, and then there's a statute that supports the procedure if a party refuses to pay. So in order to enforce either of those processes, you have to go to court on a breach of contract claim, effectively, and the court then would support the expert determination in respect of that. That's how that would be addressed. But to dispense from one, you could, you see, if you had, I think contracts tend to say that nothing in these contracts, nothing in the contract prevents parties, say, from commencing litigation. So you could always, maybe in a contract, you could reserve the right to take a dispute to court. But the question is, why would you if you've got a good process? And if you were to dispense with some of the processes, well, you could say that, well, the courts are very, very good, but they're very, very busy. So, I mean, what happens in some courts is that they appoint experts to determine issues for the court to try and speed up the process. And in fact, some courts now are considering arbitration as a way to resolve the disputes. So the courts themselves are referring disputes to arbitration. So a party might say, well, we want to litigate, we want to go to court, and then the court themselves compels the party to go to arbitration anyway. So these sorts of issues are happening in very crowded courts, but you have, if you were to dispense of particular certain processes, then probably arbitration as opposed to expert determination or vice versa might be something to consider. So you might want the dispute to be finally decided under an expert determination. Then you could have that expert determination under the dispute board. There's no reason why you couldn't have that. There's also, as we talked about earlier, there's merit in not having a final decision through the dispute board. That's a process then that really the parties can engage in without having an ultimate decision made. And they're ability then to explore any options and the skills of the mediator might be used in that sort of a process as well, a part of the dispute board. But dispute boards can have a final and binding decision, yet that may dispense from having an expert determination clause or an arbitration clause in the contract. But where you don't have arbitration or litigation, then in effect the binding decision that remains unpaid is a breach of contract in itself, and that's how you bring those claims to court to get them enforced. And the court, one would think, would enforce a breach of contract claim. What would occur, however, is that a sophisticated party on the losing side would raise numerous issues of jurisdiction and breaches of natural justice and procedural fairness. And this is why the expert determiner must be very proficient at managing the process and managing ensuring procedural fairness, because jurisdictional challenges would be raised as the reason for non-payment, or a decision that was clearly an error, an obvious error that ought not to be made and was substantial in nature. But minor errors, I think, on the whole, might not be an issue. I mean, an expert determiner must be able to be free to make a decision, and a decision that one party doesn't like doesn't mean that it's wrong. So to dispense of one anyway, I think you could look at expert determination replacing arbitration. You could have a dispute board that ended up in a binding decision, and then you didn't need another dispute resolution process, clause in the contract. Or you might have dispute boards that go so far and issue recommendations akin to security of payment, say, and you can have an interim decision that has to be finally decided. And the final decision of those could arise out of a separate dispute resolution clause with a separate procedure.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions?
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Neil. I'm from Faculty of Law and University. I come a little bit late, but I think we talked about various alternative dispute resolution today, such as equity determination and the dispute resolution board. So I would like to ask, from your experience, what are the criteria you will recommend, you will use to recommend your clients to put whether this project should use this expert determination or use the DAD or use arbitration, or which one you prefer more?
The gentleman name is Ajahn Napong. He is lecturer at University of Rangkhamhaeng, and then he has been studying in Australia, your country, before.
In respect of, I mean, the chosen dispute resolution process, that's not really a decision for an independent dispute practitioner like myself. I mean, you can say which process do you prefer from the point of view of the determiner or mediation, but certainly parties now are becoming more sophisticated in putting their minds to that question. It's a very important question because parties often spend a lot of time on the commercial aspects of a contract and they never think about the dispute resolution clause or dispute processes. And dispute resolution claims are an enormous cost, and particularly in construction, are an enormous cost to the industry. So looking in advance as to the process that you might want to use to resolve a dispute is very, very important. And that depends on the sort of project. If you have a project with maybe complicated parties that have complex issues, you might think a dispute board would be something that would benefit that particular project with a very experienced practitioner who might be able to offer up some guidance along the way and discuss the difficult issues and how they might be resolved in that respect. Parties might want an expert determination as a way to resolve disputes and look at a very efficient, cost-effective system and process. And in that process, they might draft a set of rules and procedures that they include in the contract. Or maybe the parties want a little more comfort and consider that arbitrations grounded in an arbitration act with the procedures that involve the support of the courts in the event that something didn't go the way the process was required. They might see the benefit in that too. So really it depends on the independent sort of circumstances for each of the contracts that you might be considering a dispute resolution clause in. I think most construction projects, expert determination would lend itself very well to resolving disputes. I think when parties start to use it and it becomes more evolved, I think it would be a highly popular process because it has a lot of the merits of arbitration without a lot of the processes that give rise to costs. And experienced expert determiners know how to formulate processes in order for parties to ensure their process really is suitable for the particular dispute. So I mean, there are all sorts of considerations in respect of your question and what sort of procedure you might want to adopt. I mean, we haven't really touched on mediation either. Mediation is a process where you don't have a decision maker, but you have an independent non-decision maker who guides the parties through a decision-making process, and the parties themselves come to a decision. And that's a very, very beneficial system as well. That's a very beneficial process to have in a dispute resolution clause. But it often isn't a final and binding decision because it's really a decision that mediation in itself is a process where the parties should be able to say, I don't want to be here anymore, and that's the point of it. It's an agreement between the parties, and the parties also have to have the ability to walk away from that process in order to have the authority to be able to make a decision at all. But I have a tiered process with negotiation and mediation, and then bringing into a determinative process after those negotiation and mediation type processes would be recommended. And whether you choose expert determination or arbitration, and really just as a the particular project itself. I mean, you might have a project with international aspects to it, and you decide international arbitration actually is the way to travel. You might take an international state for arbitration, and therein lies the issue where expert determination would be a suitable forum for that sort of a contract where you've got international parties, and an international arbitration might be the most beneficial mechanism for resolving that dispute. And you may have issues where an international dispute then could be raised through a bilateral investment treaty, where a party is invested in a country, and that arbitration arises out of a particular treaty or a breach of the treaty. So, I mean, there are many ways in international disputes that arbitration can be triggered that way. It's not just the contract, but the underlying contract you have to have regard to. There can be considerable jurisdictional arguments in respect of where the forum of dispute is. There's often a local organization or party to their contract wants the dispute resolved in the local courts for the international company on international arbitration because they feel there's the perception of a more neutral decision in that sort of a forum. But the perception also is that those particular forums are incredibly expensive. So they're making a balance in those sorts of things.
Thank you. Just one more question. So as I don't have a really clear about the expert determination process yet, but how long does it take for an expert determination process in Australia normally takes? Like,
Could you repeat the question, sorry?
How long does it take for an expert determination process for one dispute?
Well, so the rules in themselves would set out a timetable. So you might have a dispute of a few $1 million or $1 million, and parties may have, say, 15 business days each to make submissions. So you might have 15 business days for the claimant, say, to make their submissions on their claims, and then 15 business days for the respondent to reply. And then you might have a further 15 business days or 10 business days for replies and submissions, and then following that, the expert determiner might, under the process, might be requested to make a decision, and that might be itself within, say, 15 business days, 30 business days. But it depends on the complexity of the actual dispute of the contract. So the parties might want a lot longer than that to prepare their own submissions, and if it's a very large dispute, you might consider a much longer process for that, and many more months to come to a decision. I mean, if you have several hundred issues in dispute, it wouldn't be unreasonable to consider that 6 months was a reasonable sort of a time to resolve those sorts of issues. And that's always subject to the expert having the authority to extend time. So if you receive submissions that are far larger than initially anticipated, the obvious result of that is that more time will be required to make a decision because there's much more reading involved. But an expert determiner also has to be proficient in taking out the relevant parts of submissions, but having regard to them all. So it's flexible, and you might have thresholds of time in respect of different variations of disputes. So if you have a value of a dispute of $500,000, that maybe was a 6-week process all in all, or a 2-month process, or slightly longer. And you might have expert determinations that run up to 1 year that are highly complex with enormous submissions. Because it's a very flexible process, it is very well suited to many different disputes. And it's just like statutory adjudication, where the whole process might be 30 days. Putting the adjudicator under pressure to form a decision within 10 business days of receiving submissions from the parties. There's no reason an expert determiner can't be put under that sort of pressure, but you have to ask the question, is it really reasonable to do that? Because if you're looking for a binding decision, you want that decision to be of good quality. So it's a reasonable thing to say, well, we have to give you enough time to get that quality.
I would like to add something about this subject. Thailand has very few cases of expert determination. In one case, in one dispute, they appoint Professor Nalong as expert determiner. That case, the dispute was 2.2 billion baht. And then they give Professor Nalong 5 days. After submission of document, then they submit a lot of document, box and box and box of document. And then Professor Nalong give them the opportunity of presentation, as I remember, whether or not correct, 1 day each. After that, compiling the decision. So altogether, 5 days. 5 days, they did not say the time of the last 5 days, whether working time or not. The decision given to the party just before midnight, but within 5 days. This is the story. Very hard, but whenever they agree, and Professor Nalong also agree try to do this space, then it can be done. Whether or not, but I think if you should give the expert appropriate time, box and box and box, then the expert study the whole night, over and over. Something like this, it may be a bit too much, very pushy. Maybe about a month or 2 already visible. This is what I like to have. The officer have another question, please.
Yes, for another question, I would like to ask a quick question because it will be noon soon. So I would like to talk about the physics, Federation International Level Contract 2007, okay? So I would like you to tell us about the pros and cons to using about the physics contract, because to be honest, the physics contract in Thailand is very new. So and like the contractor are not still not familiarized to physics contract. Maybe it may discourage them from tendering and reducing local competition, and also is increasing their bid time and costs. So I would like you to tell us about the pros and cons we need to make a credit contract or not as your experience for working in Sydney, Australia. So yeah. So please tell us about the pros and cons.
Well, it's a large contract, but actually your question in itself raises an issue in that it's not used much here. It's actually not used much as a contract in Australia. So it's used in international projects a lot, particularly with the World Bank and with other international financiers. And that's one of the issues, that there is the experience in using the contract globally. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad contract, and it is a contract that seems to be well regarded by parties who have experience with it. It's very procedural, so it's important to ensure that you just follow the procedure, but it's like any contract. The contract itself is really a set of rules that the parties must follow. And when parties to a contract understand that the contract itself is the framework that you must manage the project by, there tends to be a lot less disputes. Because by referencing the contract and everything you do, irrespective of what the contract is, it gives you the rules and procedures that you need to follow to ensure that you're complying with the contract terms and complying with your obligations on the project. I suppose in respect of some of the issues you might encounter, well, they've got procedures effectively established. And some of those procedures, like dispute codes, may not have evolved completely, locally. So there can be problems, I suppose, in fulfilling some of the obligations under the contract. But that's the same in any country, and Australia has a tradition of drafting its own contracts, and a lot of contracts in Australia are sort of bespoke and private and resource type projects. They are drafted by the companies themselves, and they have very complex contracts that are unique to each project or unique to each company. I have to say though, in Australia, they have a very great pool of talent and knowledge, very intelligent practitioners that have produced and helped government to produce rules and procedures, and government themselves at some states have their own contracts that they've drafted, and they have brought in procedures for dispute resolution, and actually they've been driving some of these dispute resolution processes that are really grasping the issues and formulating processes that really suit themselves and are equitable to the parties too. The problem then when you introduce a contract like that into an industry is where the practitioners come that have the knowledge to just work with that contract with very little lead time. And you might have an experienced contractor on one side who understands and has 20 years of experience working with those contracts. A national organisation that doesn't have the same sort of experience in that regard. I mean, that would be a big problem to any country. But the application of contract management in that is what's important. It's just a contract like any other. It's just a case of grasping the procedures and making sure that there's an understanding of them well in advance. But that would be one of the merits of the dispute resolution board, I think, under the FIT contract. I mean, they're there to guide and help, not to give decisions and instruct, but questions can be raised in respect of procedure and interpretation of certain clauses. And on that basis, that's a real benefit to a party, in particular a party that is less experienced in using that contract. There could be a board that has the ability to interpret clauses and to interpret procedure and give clarity and provide recommendations on an ongoing basis for questions around.
ก็ I just want to add that because I have done a lot of claim work on for the project worldwide and saw a lot of construction contract in the US, in the Middle East, and also in Thailand. And I found that any contract, if you say pro and cons of the fittings, I have good fittings contract. The general clause is very good. It's fair. It tells us how many days employer have and how many days the contractor have in order to respond to the others, something like that. And the clause have been written very well written by somebody. But the problem is the particular clause, which I saw the fitting contractors change a lot. And from fairness, it's to unfairness contract. So in general, it's quite good. So just want to share that. And I think the best person who can talk about the fitting would be Kun Niwat. He's a vice president of the Consulting Engineer Association of Thailand. and he also teach physics in Thailand as well, and we got a lot of training at the physics. So that I would like him to share the pros and cons of physics.
Before we say something, I would like to mention a little bit about physics contract. What is physics? Physics is a federation of consulting engineers. The name of this federation is in French, and physics is the abbreviation for French name. But the name in English is Federation of Consulting Engineers. So they look after members. Their member is engineer, a consulting engineer. They think that the successful consulting engineer to do their job, one reason is to have a good contract. So they start drafting, they invite experts, integrated to come together and then draft the contract. The contract has been very successful. So the name of physics, instead of when we mention about physics, we should think about Federation of Consulting Engineers. But no, now when we mention physics, it's been that contract, one organized, one type of contract. But actually, we should think about it, this federation. Now, this federation is an international federation. So members all around the world, including Thailand. Thai Consulting Engineer Association of Thailand. So the abbreviation is CEAT. So this organization is association around the member. There are president, there are vice president, and all others. And today we are very lucky. We have 21 is vice president, international affairs, who is dealing with physics contract quite a lot and communicating physics as federation. So I have consulted everyone that the question of pro and con of contract and popularity of this physics, I would like everyone to give some idea. So please, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much ขออนุญาตยืนพูดเพราะว่าเมื่อกี้ถามอาจารย์นานแล้วอาจารย์อธิบายไทยเด็กอาจารย์บอกคนเด็กเพราะว่าคุณนิวอยู่ด้วย Okay, so I will speak in English for this is a very popular question about pros and cons of using physics contract, and in fact, since we have very limited time, normally I may need 2 full days to talk about it. Okay, but today I will try to make it in a very brief way. It depends whether we are comparing between standard contract and non-standard contract. This is the first point, which I believe most of us agree to have some kind of standard contract should be good for us, because to produce, start from drafting a contract until the contract administration, we know that there are so many details inside. Without having this standard, it means everybody can put anything they want. And the 2 parties that are going to have a contract together will need to review, comment, send back and forth all the time. So this is the first thing that I like to fight to with you all first, that standard contract is always good for any industry, especially the construction industry, which is very complex. We have to say it's complex. So the pros and cons of physics contract, obviously I talk about pros already, that we should have standard. But then why standard contract like physics? which is, okay, I need to emphasize this thing as well. What is a good contract in our opinion? To me, whenever I share my experience, I would say that good contract should have these 4 characteristics. The first one should be fair, or let's say must be fair. Secondly, it should be clear. Clear means whatever to form part of this contract should be clear, should have no ambiguity, or at least have least ambiguity or contradiction, that sort of thing. So it means clear. Another 2 important part of it, it should be amendable. This is something challenging to most government organizations because it's always time-consuming and difficult to amend it. And this is a big hurdle to use to adopt a good contract to the government project. Sadly, I have to say that way. What is the example of amendable? Variation order is a good example. If we are going to work, let's say, 1,000 million baht project, let's say 1 billion baht project, and we expect no variation at all in that project, I think that's something impossible for the construction project. But we know that the government protocol, whenever we need to amend anything, it's difficult, very time-consuming, and we need level of approval. So people, or let's say the government official who administer the contract, will try to avoid to deal with this kind of variation. Because otherwise, if any of you need to sign approval, then it's your full responsibility. So this is a big hurdle that I would like to share, frankly, from my experience. So amendable is important to form a good contract. The last one is resolvable, and this is exactly our topic today. A good contract shouldn't lead us to the dead end. For example, if the contractor did not perform, or the client, the employer did not pay the contractor, what we gonna do? We shouldn't face a dead end. There should be some kind of resolution. And the resolution, expert determination is something we introduce or recommend today. But we already know that there are many other ADR, alternative dispute resolution, like mediation, arbitration, DAAB there. So, good contract should have this kind of 4 characteristics that I mentioned. So the first thing that we need to let's say, to think whether if we are going to adopt the FIDI contract, which is a standard contract, we already have the attitude to emphasize this 4 parts or not. Clear, fair, amendable, and resolvable. If we haven't fully agreed with this concept of good contract yet, it's always difficult to push things forward. Let me make it clear for the pros of having a standard contract in terms of the contractor perception. Whenever we try to adopt a very strict contract, contractual clause, and it's not fair, sometimes we feel that it's our advantage. As a client, it's our advantage. But we all should know that in reality, the contractors also not stupid. They always find a way to deal with the unfairness that we impose to them. So that's adding more problems to us to admit the country, to admit the construction project. Because if we put the penalty clause very strict or the penalty rate very high, so they will try every possible way to sneak up on it. And eventually, starting from the tendering process, they will try to, let's say, put extra budget to cope or to offset this unfairness that we impose to them. And eventually, if that contract turning out quite smooth, it means what they have charged extra for it is the employer loss. It's not the contractor loss. So this is another pro. That's why we should try to adopt a contract that's fair. Okay. Talking about cons briefly, if you ask me personally, obviously that I am the one who trying to promote a good standard contract to the Thailand construction industry. So I merely see anything that I consider is a con. But if I have to name one thing, probably it's about it's still difficult to change the attitude and also the protocol, the way to think on how to deal with the construction issue. I have to emphasize a construction issue because construction issues have something difficult for general public to understand. For example, if we are talking, this is only one example, one of million, let's say. Do we all understand the word tolerance? When we do any construction, we have tolerance everywhere. Right? But if we don't have full understanding on this and we always say that the contractor works have defect, then it's always leading to the dispute. This is only one example, as I said, but since the time limit. So pros and cons, to me, especially the government project that involve, let's say, big money, okay, we really need all us to share the same understanding that without a good standard contract, eventually it will be leading to chaos because nobody will really believe that whenever we are fair to the contractor, eventually we will get the same fairness in return. But the more we impose some unfairness to them, so it will be backfire sometime. So let me conclude it this way. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we are running out of time. So I would like to conclude the seminar for today on behalf of School of Engineering, Sripatum University. Thank you very much for our valuable speakers, Mr. Neil Kirkpatrick, Professor Dharan Putna, Ajahn Chamna Pishet Pan, and Dr. Apirat Ravi Usatham.